I once made $40 million in a single morning, but when I died, I realized I couldn't take a single drop of love with me. It's strange. For 30 years, I believed I was building a heaven out of concrete, stocks, and billion-dollar deals, but what I was building was a beautiful prison to trap my soul inside. I had everything the world admires: an underground garage filled with supercars, artwork worth more than most schools, and private dinners with heads of central banks. But I had no one to hear my sighs. I can't remember the last time my father hugged me. I don't know if my son still calls me Dad, or just refers to me by the name the newspapers use. I used to believe I was immortal because of money. But it was money that made me forget I was ever human. The day I died, I didn't even realize it. I only knew that when I opened my eyes, the world had gone completely silent. No phones ringing. No footsteps. No more emails. Then I saw myself drifting above my body like a shadow no one noticed. It wasn't fear. It was the truth I had spent my entire life running from. But the thing that terrified me most wasn't death itself. It was what I was about to see on the other side of that threshold. And if you have ever believed that money could buy redemption, you need to hear what came next. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I saw myself lying motionless on the king-sized bed in my 6,000 square foot Manhattan penthouse. My face had gone pale and bluish, one hand still holding a half-finished glass of wine, the other wearing the Richard Mille watch I used to call my second wife. The chandelier light above cast down on my body like it was dissecting a lifeless piece of art. No loved ones. No one is calling for help. Just me, drifting upward from my own body, weightless and unseen. My name is William Cross. I was 53, a billionaire investor once featured in Forbes 5 years in a row, known as the man who restructured Wall Street. I had built my life on ruthless deals and believed that wealth was humanity's highest achievement. I had everything society celebrates: 3 publicly traded companies, a private jet, 2 estates in Europe, and a contact list most would envy. But in that moment, I realized I had nothing. I called out, but no one heard. I cried, but no one saw. The luxury apartment I once considered the temple of my success had become the coldest tomb I could imagine. Then a light appeared. Not from above. Not from ahead. It came from within me and pulled me into a space with no ceiling, no floor, no color, yet filled with sensation. I began to see memories I had buried. I saw myself at 10 years old, hiding in a closet while my parents argued. I saw myself at 20, signing my first deal built on a lie. I saw the boardroom where I coldly laid off 300 employees to protect stock value. I saw the look in my wife Clara's eyes the day I chose a press conference over our son's birthday. No one accused me. No one shouted. But every moment replayed like a silent blade, slicing through the place I thought no longer felt. And what broke me wasn't what I saw. It was who was waiting for me on the other side, not with judgment or condemnation, but with a holiness so pure, my soul could no longer hide. I don't know how long I drifted inside that light. There was no clock, no ticking time, no sense of before or after, only the growing awareness deep within me that I could never return as the same man. Then I felt it, a presence, not loud, not overwhelming, but so powerful I couldn't stand upright, even though I no longer had a body. A white light surrounded me, not blinding, but piercing straight through my soul. I didn't see his face, but I knew with a certainty that needed no reason, no proof. Just standing there was enough. It was God. It was Jesus. I thought I would be judged, interrogated. I had prepared my defense. I had funded nonprofits. I had given scholarships. I had visited my mother. I thought I could list those things like receipts. But no, he didn't ask. He didn't speak. He simply radiated. And in that radiance, I had nothing left to hide. Every choice I ever made began to play before me with a clarity sharper than any screen I'd ever seen. I saw how I ignored the pleading eyes of an employee begging not to be let go. I saw the lies I told in investor meetings, just to gain a few more percentage points. I saw my wife crying alone in our bedroom, because I forgot our anniversary again. I saw my son, 8 years old, standing outside my office door holding a soccer trophy I never once acknowledged. I saw myself from the outside looking in, and I no longer looked human. Just an educated shell filled with wealth and status, but with a soul as hollow as a mansion made of gold built on no foundation. Then Jesus asked me, not in words but in thought so clear it needed no sound, "If you were to live again, would you dare to live differently?" I broke down, not out of shame, but because I wasn't sure if I had the courage. To live again would mean facing loss, facing the scorn of a world where I had once been its master. I would have to walk away from everything to hold on to the only thing he was showing me, that my soul still had a chance. But before sending me back, he didn't let me go immediately. He showed me something even more painful than the truth. He showed me the life I could have lived had I ever chosen love over control. And that is the one thing I will never forget. Jesus did not judge me. He didn't rebuke me like someone wielding power over a sinner. He simply showed me another path, a different world, a version of my life that I had missed. Not to condemn me, but to show me that I once had a choice. I saw myself there, still my face, still my voice, but the eyes were different. They no longer carried the arrogance of a CEO seated on a throne, but the warmth of a father kneeling to hear his son talk about a new model car. I saw a small house in the suburbs instead of a penthouse. I saw myself in the kitchen, cooking dinner beside my wife, Clara. No chefs, no housekeepers, just laughter, the smell of tomato sauce, and a sense of completeness I had never truly felt in my real life. I saw myself using money to build schools in the very places I had once exploited for profit. I saw orphan children holding warm meals funded by donations I had never considered making. I saw the grateful eyes of a young mother saved from a hospital bill through a quiet foundation I had created without needing applause. I saw myself sitting in a modest room, nothing grand, but my soul was ablaze. Not because I was admired, but because I was loved. He showed me these things not to break my heart, but to help me understand that wealth isn't measured by what sits in a bank account, but by what we leave in the hearts of others. I wasn't an evil man. I was simply lost. I had chosen the wrong path for so long that I began to believe it was the only path. And when the vision faded, I stood there hollow, wanting to cry out, "Please give me a chance." But I didn't dare demand. I only knew that if I returned, I would have to walk as a man who had lost everything to find his true self. Then he asked me again, gently as a whisper, "Are you ready?" I nodded, and in the blink of an eye, I woke up. But the world was no longer the same, and neither was I. I woke up in the emergency room to the sound of a ventilator and a blur of white hospital lights. A nurse shouted when I opened my eyes, and the doctor called me a miracle. But I didn't feel like a miracle. I felt a mission. Something whispered inside me, saying, "This isn't a second chance to survive, it's a second chance to become." I couldn't explain to them that I had met Jesus. I couldn't describe the light, the soul, or the version of my life I had never lived. They would think I had brain damage. This world doesn't accept what it cannot measure. So I stayed silent. But in that silence, I began doing something I hadn't done in 30 years. I started listening to my heart. I stepped down from the board. I sold my shares in 3 major companies. I closed 2 venture capital funds. I handed over the reins of my firm to the vice presidents and refused to take a single dollar in return. People thought I had lost my mind. The press wrote that I was drifting after a stroke. But I didn't need them to understand. I moved into a small cabin in the Oregon mountains, where there was no cell service, no luxury cars, no product launches. Just a wooden table, a fireplace, a few books, and memories. Memories of the people I had left behind. I started writing letters by hand. One to each former employees I had laid off. One of the friends I had cut off over a business dispute. And most of all, one to Clara. "I'm sorry I loved power more than I loved you. I'm sorry I let handshakes on Wall Street mean more than your arms around me. I'm sorry I never learned how to be a husband, because I was too busy trying to be a king." I didn't expect her to reply. But 3 weeks later, she called. Her voice sounded just the same, only a little rougher. We met at a small cafe in Portland. No tears, no blame. Just 2 people who had once loved each other, now quietly sipping coffee in the presence of what remained. I didn't ask for another chance. I only said, "I'd like to be your friend if you'll let me." She nodded. I used to think I was a good father because I set up a scholarship fund in my son's name. But I never showed up to watch him play soccer. I used to deposit hundreds of thousands of dollars into his account every birthday, but I never once asked if he wanted a hug. His name is Caleb. He's 23 now, lives in Seattle, and studies environmental science, a choice I once mocked by saying, "There's no future in planting trees." I used to think my condescension was wisdom. But now I see it for what it was, unconscious cruelty. I wrote him a letter. Not an email. By hand. Every word is slightly crooked. "You don't have to forgive me. Just know that I've seen, I've understood, and I'm sorry." I didn't expect a reply. But 11 days later, I got a message. It was short. "I'm coming to Oregon. Just once. Caleb arrived on an early spring afternoon, wearing a faded hoodie, carrying a small potted plant. No hug. He didn't call me Dad. He just stood there looking at me for a long moment, then said, "If you want to change, plant this with me." We dug a hole next to the cabin. The plant was small, its roots fragile, its leaves still young. I asked him what it was called. He said, "Redwood." I froze. A redwood is the tallest tree on earth, but it starts from one of the smallest seeds. We didn't talk much, but from that day on, Caleb came every weekend. He taught me how to water the plants, how to sort the recycling, how to live slowly. And one day, while we were sipping tea under the baby tree's shade, he said, "You don't need to try so hard. Just being here is enough." I cried, not because I had been forgiven, but because I was finally present. My son once thought I was dead, but I'm still here. And I swear, if there's only one thing I have left to do in this life, I will spend it loving my son as if the past never happened. One Sunday afternoon, nearly a year after I woke up, Caleb showed up at the cabin earlier than usual. He brought an apple pie. I noticed the crust was slightly cracked, and the smell of cinnamon and honey was exactly like the ones his mother used to bake. I asked quietly, "Did you make this?" Caleb smiled. "No, Mom did." I could barely breathe. I never imagined Clara would ever cook anything for me again, after all those years of silence. But that afternoon she came. She wore a soft gray sweater and carried a teapot along with a few old photo albums. No one said much. We sat around the wooden table in the cabin as sunlight streamed through the window, casting a strange and gentle glow. Clara opened one of the albums and pointed to an old photo. Caleb, 3 years old, sitting on my shoulders in Central Park. We all smiled. Not out of politeness. Not out of habit. It was a smile that came from a place I had never truly reached before, a place called gratitude. After dinner, Caleb and I went out to the garden while Clara washed the dishes. She quietly hummed an old hymn. I stood still and closed my eyes. In that moment, I understood that the miracle wasn't that I had died and come back. The miracle was this: things that once shattered could be pieced together again, if we are humble enough to kneel and brave enough to love once more. That night, the three of us sat by the fireplace. We didn't need to say much. It was enough just to be there together. And in the flickering firelight, I saw clearly what real wealth looked like. It wasn't a bank account. It wasn't property. It was a family once broken, now quietly sitting together, smiling, calling each other by old names. 6 months later, she moved to a place near the cabin. Not as husband and wife. Just two people who took morning walks together. Shared simple dinners. One evening, I asked her, "Do you have any regrets?" She smiled and said, "Yes. But not enough to stop forgiving." But real life doesn't end with forgiveness. It begins with what we do after we've been forgiven. And I knew that if God gave me another chance, then I had to walk the road my soul once abandoned. And that road began in the one place I had always feared the most: love. I once appeared on national television and was interviewed by some of the most prominent journalists in America. But ever since I came back from death, I haven't accepted a single invitation. I turned them all down. No interviews. No memoir. No podcast appearances. It seems the world couldn't grasp what I saw. And maybe it doesn't need to. Instead, I wrote a letter. A handwritten letter, 13 pages long, was placed in a wooden box and buried beneath the redwood tree Caleb and I planted on that first day. In it, I recorded everything. My mistakes, the light, the words from Jesus, the life I once abandoned, and what I now believe with certainty. Love is the only thing that remains when all else fades. I wrote, "I once lived as if money could redeem my soul. But in the invisible realm, there are no banks. Only memories. Only eyes that remember. Only what you gave away from the heart." And I ended it with a quiet message for whoever might read it one day. If you are racing for more power, status, or wealth, ask yourself this when your eyes finally close. Who do you want standing beside you? What do you want your soul to carry? And have you truly loved anyone with your whole heart? After that, I disappeared from the public eye. I was no longer William Cross, the billionaire. I was simply Will, the man who lived in a small cabin, who smiled often, watered trees, baked bread, and always had an open seat at the table for anyone who had lost their way and was trying to find themselves again. I don't know how much longer I will live, but I do know this: if I die tomorrow, I will leave with a weightless heart, because I have laid down my burdens, and my soul has been given a second chance to love, to forgive, and to live as if miracles are real.